Hi, I'm Trish. Welcome to Trish Talks. So today I'm going to be making sauteed peas, and I'm going to show you how I can do this. Make peas for at least 4 or 5 days, depending on how big your family is and how many peas you eat, all in one shot. So, welcome to my channel. If you like this channel, please hit the like button and subscribe button and notification so you know that when I go live. So what I've done is that I've taken 2 cups of water and put it to boil, and I then added my frozen peas. I used 2 bags of frozen peas. I typically use organic peas. I use a lot of organic products. I use as many organic products as I possibly can, and I just find them to be, they taste better, and they're better for you. So I put the frozen peas in the boiling water, and I'm gonna let this come to a boil. I have this on super high. I have this on my ultra high so that it boils fast. In the meantime, what I'm gonna do is, because these are frozen is the reason why I wanna boil them. So in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prepare my pan where I'm gonna saute. So I'm gonna put olive oil. Now, depending on the size of the pan I use, depends on how much olive oil I use. Okay, so I'm gonna coat the bottom here. This is probably about a half a cup of olive oil. I probably will add a little bit more while it's cooking. I love olive oil. It's so healthy for you, and I think that there can never be enough olive oil. What I also like to do is put my products in. Now, this is going to take a few minutes to boil, and then it has to boil for about 6 minutes. I like my peas to be on the soft side. I like them to be a little bit well done in the pan, but of course you can do whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable. So technically speaking, I do not have to boil these for 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, because I'm gonna be cooking them in the pan, but I find that it works for me, and I love the deliciousness of it. So what I like to do is always put all my products in the oil, especially when I'm heating up the oil, because the heat will infuse all of the products and season your oil. You know, when you go to those Italian restaurants and you have like the delicious bread with, you know, the delicious olive oil dip? Well, you make that with really just heating up your oil with your flavors and then cooling it off. And it's so simple to do that, and easy to make, and delicious. So, in my olive oil, I particularly like to add salt. I'm a salt person. There's Rocky. Rocky is my sidekick for my show, and he enjoys eating what I cook. Although most of the time he can't have what I make, but I think he just likes to be around the food. So I kind of will put a good amount, and the reason I'm putting a good amount, I would say probably about a teaspoon, possibly a tablespoon, most likely a tablespoon, because I'm using 2 bags of peas. So, and what I like to do is I like to make vegetables for days. So I have everything kind of, you know, my vegetables and so forth all ready to go when I'm making dinners. And so when I'm cooking my meats or my sauces, my vegetables are done. So this is, I'm gonna do this a little bit of a stir. And this should be coming to a boil shortly. So I put salt in here. And sometimes I like to use garlic powder. I use garlic powder with everything. And now, of course, you can use fresh garlic. I am a huge fan of fresh garlic, but you'll see in all my cooking I don't use it. And the reason why that I don't use it is because I don't like biting into big chunks of garlic. Some people do. So, and if you do, then you absolutely should just replace my garlic powder with fresh garlic. It does give a little bit of a different taste, and also we all have sensitive stomachs, and most people I know do, so they really can't eat garlic like that, where garlic powder doesn't seem to bother anyone. So in the meantime, as this boils, I'm kind of going to start to heat up my oil. I'm going to put it on very low, and I'm only going to put one single burner on, which is the smaller burner, because I don't want my oil to burn, and we still have this to boil, etc. So what I like to do when I'm making especially peas is that I will, you know, cook something else at the same time or do something else. But for the purpose of this show, I really only wanted to cook one product. So I also like to make fresh green beans, and I do them the same way. I have two different ways that I do them, and I will do a show on that. If I have frozen green beans, I will do the same thing. I will boil them, and then I will put them in the oil to kind of fry them and kind of give them that delicious olive oil and salt, garlic taste. Or if I'm using fresh green beans, then I will put them in a pan with, you know, a decent amount of olive oil and kind of cook them slowly, because they have to cook, and I love them well done. I kind of like them on the really well done side, where they're like mushy and they taste, you kind of bite into it and you've got a lot of like olive oil. It's just delicious. So I just think, you know, cooking, there's just so many things to do. As I've mentioned previously, I love to bake. And I love to make cookies. One of my favorite cookies is snickerdoodles. I recently tried a recipe that I found, which was chocolate snickerdoodles, and they weren't as great as I thought that they would be. They kind of tasted like a chocolate cookie, but with a little bit of a bite because of the cream and tartar. So I wasn't a fan. I am a chocoholic, and I love having a dessert after lunch or dinner of some sort. And I think everybody that knows me knows that I love chocolate. So I will be doing different shows on different cookies. I have a great recipe that's been handed down to me for snickerdoodles that I think is just the best. You know, the one thing with cookies that's really important is that you need to watch them, because, you know, when they give that range like 9 to 11 minutes or something like that, you really have to watch. And as your oven heats up, the cookies cook faster because your oven's already hot. Okay, so as you can see, this is boiling. So I'm going to let this boil for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to put it in here. So I am going to raise my temperature on my heat of my olive oil. I'm going to get it ready, because it's, even though it's a little bit of oil, I'm going to just start to heat it a little bit on the higher side. So again, what I love about peas is that they are so healthy for you, and they're just a great side dish. They take a few seconds to heat up, and they're just a great piece of any meal. You know, you can put peas in salads. You can do lots of things with peas. So now, because I still have this on high, this is the reason why it's almost overflowing. So it's important to use, especially when you're doing 2 bags of peas, is to use like a bigger pot. I still put in about the same amount of water, because the water needs to be over the peas. Now, you certainly can put the peas in your pot first and then put the water in. I use hot water, not boiling water, but just hot water from the sink, and I cover the peas. And so really, by the time that this is finished, you know, a lot of the water will have evaporated and reduced. So now, always keep an eye on your oil, because you don't want it to burn. I think that cooking is just such a great way to relax and kind of unwind. And I know that, you know, I think that the thought process is like cooking takes so much time and energy, and you know, it's like if you work all day and then you come home and you cook, but I find that my recipes and my functionality in making different dishes really is not time consuming. I really have condensed everything to make sure that you have the great flavors, but you don't have to spend a ton of time. And that's the whole part, is that you kind of want to enjoy what you're making and kind of give yourself like a break for the day, where you're not looking at it as a like this task. So I think it's always great when you cook something and then you kind of like sit down to eat and you've got like this delicious meal that didn't take you that long to do. Sorry. I think Rocky agrees. Rocky always agrees. He just wants to have lots of food. Rocky goes everywhere with me. And that's correct. Especially when I sit down to eat. This is his favorite place to be, which is right next to the kitchen, because again, he gets to smell everything that we're eating. So now I'm just going to get a colander. We have about 2 minutes left. And then I'm gonna, once I drain my peas, so now as I'm getting closer, because again, I only have about 2 minutes left, I'm going to put this on high. And the reason why I'm gonna put it on high is because I like to sear the peas. I think that again, I like my vegetables on the softer side. If you don't, then my recommendation is to not have your oil super hot and just have your oil, you know, kind of at a decent temperature. And, you know, don't cook them as long as I do. So the other thing is, I think that cooking, you know, can be random. It doesn't have to be so pre-planned. You know, I think if you kind of store your freezer or refrigerator just with different items in it, you know, kind of always have chicken on hand, always have, you know, chopped meat has to be used within a day or two. So, you know, but, you know, have chopped meat on hand, or you can freeze it if you'd like. And, you know, having your vegetables already made, having your salad washed, ready to go, is just a great item. Okay, so this is done. It's been 5 minutes. I'm just going to drain this. And I think that one of the great things also about cooking vegetables is that, especially frozen vegetables, is that they just are so delicious and fresh tasting. Okay, so now you can see that my oil is hot. That just takes a few seconds of creating all the drama when the water and the oil mix together. Now I'm going to stir this because I want to blend all of the peas with the olive oil. Now, because there's so many peas, having the oil on high and keeping this on high doesn't burn the peas. Matter of fact, it actually takes like 3 or 4 minutes for it to cook. So I kind of like to pat it down gently. Of course, you don't want to squash your peas. I kind of just graze the spoon over and kind of allow the bottom side of the peas to cook. And this is where the flavor is coming in. Now, because this is a lot of peas. I'm gonna add a little bit more olive oil in the middle, you know, probably about a tablespoon. And I'm gonna add a little bit more salt. Probably a half a teaspoon. And the reason for that is because I love oil and I love salt. So I think it's just a great combination. Okay. So now, I don't know if you can see it on the bottom of the pan. Do you see there's not that much oil left? Can you see? This is really all there is. It's not really too much oil that you think because it gets absorbed by the peas. So I'm gonna mix this. And I'm gonna flatten it out again. And I, like I said, like to have these peas well done. I don't like them burnt, but I like them with like a little bit of a darkness to them, and you'll see that will happen. Now, if you find that you put too much olive oil in, and you don't want all of that oil, the best way to do that is to just put the peas in the colander, let them sit on top of an empty pot, and let the oil drip out. And then you don't have to have the oil, so you'll still have the great flavor, but you won't necessarily have the oil in your dish. I personally like to have the oil in my dish, and so does Rocky. He spots something outside. So a little bit about Rocky. He's 4 years old, and he is just the best. You know, he's our first dog that we've ever had. We've always had cats, and I just never knew how much you love your dog. I never knew. I never knew that it was like another child and how much you love your dog. Matter of fact, my family sometimes gets a little jealous. But, you know, it is like having another child. I mean, you have to take care of them. You have to cook, clean, bathe them, everything. Feed them, play with them. You know, they need mental health also. You know, they need everything really that a child needs. So I find that I just I love having him. Okay, now you can see that, I don't know if you can see, but the olive oil is boiling. And that's good because your oil is hot. I'm gonna keep stirring, and you can see nothing is burning, and I have this on high. Like, this is on like high. And the peas are already cooked. But you can see, even with me flattening them, none of the peas are mushed or anything. So they really do keep their form and their shape. And I think because when you boil them, they kind of retain their water, whereas like when you put them in the microwave, I think the moisture kind of gets sucked out of them. And it also has a different taste. So and I'm gonna let this kind of cook really until, we've had this on here for 5 minutes already. I'm gonna let this cook until I see a little bit of darkened on the peas, so I kind of know that they're well done. Now, for time's sake, I'm gonna put this on a little bit higher. So I'm gonna put the bigger burner on the high side. Let's see, I got the bigger burner on. Now, don't ever do this and then walk away because you don't want your peas to burn. And I'm doing this because I want, for time purposes, I want that kind of little bit of a crispiness. So, and also I want the peas to infuse the olive oil. Now you can see here, if you look at the bottom, I mean, there's probably a couple of tablespoons of olive oil left. So, now some questions that I've been asked is, do I enjoy cooking other things that kind of aren't Italian? And the answer is I do. It's just I love to eat Italian. So that's the real reason why I'm always cooking Italian. Anything sauteed or stuffed to me is more of on the Italian side, because anything with olive oil and garlic. Now I did not add garlic to this because I love the way the peas taste and the oil and the salt. I don't really like to add garlic into it, but of course you can. Now this is almost done. So I don't know if you can tell on here, but you'll see like some of the peas are starting to get darkened. So, and again, look how they maintain. They're not mushy, they're not squashed, they're not demolished. I'm stirring them and everything, and you know, kind of, you know, patting them down, so to speak, you know, in a gentle way, but they're not mushed. You can certainly see this is on high from all the smoke. So I'm gonna let this cook for like another few minutes, and your peas are ready. So if you're making this, you have 2 bags of peas. You probably have, you know, this is, if you have a bigger family, then certainly this will be enough peas for one meal. But if you're kind of using this as like your vegetable with your lunches, for example, which is like what I like to do, because I like to, I work from home, so I like to have my lunch kind of ready to go. I will, you know, this is ready. Okay, my peas are done. Thank you for watching another show of Trish Talks, and I'll see you on the next show.